class. We are back in class. This is primary science. Presenter is still Nicholas. We are to discuss circulatory system, and particularly we are on how the heart performs or how the heart works. We discussed the core role of the heart, that it is actually meant to pump blood to all body parts, and we are going to look at how the heart works. We said we are looking at saturation of blood, and we are actually looking at it is supported by four main vessels. Vessels are passages of blood, and for blood to move smoothly, for blood to move actually, there must be blood vessels. It's like if you want to move from one place to another, there must be where you will pass. It can be a road, actually it can move on water if you have a vessel to move on top of water. So we have vena cava as one of the vessels. We have pulmonary artery, we have pulmonary vein, and aorta. Then let's look at vena cava, what vena cava does. Vena cava receives blood with less oxygen, and that blood is called deoxygenated blood. And it is from all the body parts to the heart, meaning vena cava brings deoxygenated blood from all body parts to the heart. Then blood is then pushed down from the right upper auricle. Where blood enters is the right upper auricle. Now it goes to the ventricle. Then from that lower ventricle or right ventricle, deoxygenated blood will move to the lungs, and it will pass through pulmonary artery. Vena cava is bringing deoxygenated blood to the heart. Then pulmonary artery takes deoxygenated blood from heart to the lungs. We are looking at the blood going to the lungs. Why does blood go to the lungs? Blood will go to the lungs to pick oxygen and drop off carbon dioxide. These are two words. Oxygenated blood, meaning after it has gone to the lungs, it will pick oxygen. Now it will come as oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood, or blood with more oxygen, is then carried back to the heart through pulmonary vein. It will enter through pulmonary vein, then pumped to all body parts, and that vessel will be aorta. So from lungs, it will enter through pulmonary vein, and that will be oxygenated blood. Then after it has entered the heart, it will be pumped out through aorta or the body parts. The heart has valves that prevent backflow of blood in the heart. So we have valves when you just check on your structure or the structure of your human heart, you will see those valves, and they are meant to prevent the backflow of blood. It is also separated into two sides by the septum. Septum is the part that divides the heart into two parts to avoid. And what is the main role of septum? Septum is meant to avoid deoxygenated blood from mixing with oxygenated blood. That's the core, that's the fundamental role of septum. The left part of the heart is made up of thick walls due to its resistance to high blood pressure. They will ask, why is the left heart of the heart more muscular than the right? You will have to say that it is to resist high blood pressure. Remember, it's the part that will pump oxygenated blood for long distances. Then we are looking at doctors having these two instruments. This is a stethoscope. This stethoscope is meant to listen to heartbeat. This is the stethoscope. Then this is the instrument that measures blood pressure. You can see this one. This doctor is trying to measure the blood pressure using an instrument called a sphygmomanometer. This is a sphygmomanometer. You need to master the spelling and know the role of sphygmomanometer and the role of stethoscope. Let's go to what makes up blood. Those are components of blood. What makes up blood? So blood is a red liquid that flows continuously in the body. It goes to the heart, it flows, it goes to arms, it goes down to legs. So it flows continuously. And it becomes bright red when oxygen and dark red when deoxygenated. So when it is oxygenated, it becomes bright red. Then when it is deoxygenated, it becomes dark red. It has some components whereby there are 4. We have blood platelets or thrombocytes. We have plasma, that is the liquid part of blood. Then we have white blood cells. Those are leukocytes. We have red blood cells, or sometimes called erythrocytes. We have a note here to master. An adult person has a capacity of 5 to 6 liters of blood in the body. And red blood cells is the first part we are going to look at, the first component. These blood components are circular disc shapes. They are disc shaped. That's the shape of red blood cells. They are made in red bone marrows of short bones. They may ask, where are red blood cells made? They are made in red bone marrows of short bones. Then they appear red due to existence of hemoglobin. This is the pigment that makes blood red. When hemoglobin combines with oxygen, it forms oxyhemoglobin, and that oxyhemoglobin helps in absorption of oxygen. These are diagrams of red blood cells. You can see, we have said they are disc-shaped. These are 4. You can see these are many. We moved functions of red blood cells. Red blood cells are meant to transport oxygen around the body. That's the core role. We note that Plasmodium parasites, these are parasites that cause malaria. They attack red blood cells, hence causing malaria to people. Most of the times they ask, which component of blood is greater affected by malaria parasites? Those are Plasmodium germs. We go to blood plasma and white blood cells. Blood plasma is the liquid or watery part of blood. We have some components of blood plasma. We have blood proteins, we have digested food, we have hormones like ADH, like so many cytoxin, we have mineral salts and water. Then blood plasma transports carbon dioxide from all body parts to the lungs. That's a role of blood plasma. Blood plasma still transports digested food to all body parts. That's another role. When food is digested, it is absorbed in the ileum. Then after it has been, remember after absorption, it goes to the liver to remove poisonous substances. Then it will have to move to all body parts. This one will aid. Blood plasma will aid in transportation. Blood plasma also transports hormone. We have seen that where they are needed. We go to white blood cells. These blood cells have nucleus. Sometimes they ask, compare white blood cells and red blood cells. We have seen that red blood cells do not have nucleus, but for white blood cells, they have a nucleus. But these ones do not have hemoglobin in their cytoplasm, but we have seen red blood cells have hemoglobin. So once they ask compare, they ask a question and they are like, compare red blood cells and white blood cells. Say white blood cells have a nucleus, while red blood cells do not have. Or you can also say red blood cells have hemoglobin, but when they ask structure, you talk of nucleus. They have hemoglobin, then for white blood cells, they don't have hemoglobin. Still, when you go to shapes, white blood cells are irregular shaped, while red blood cells are disc-shaped. White blood cells are commonly made from lymph nodes, the spleen, and gray bone of long bones. These white blood cells are made in lymph nodes, the spleen, and gray bone of long bones. Then they help to fight. That's their role. We are looking at their role of white blood cells. They may ask, state the role of white blood cells or leukocytes. They are meant to fight against disease-causing germs. Don't say diseases here, because white blood cells do not fight diseases, but they fight disease-causing germs. And how do they will ask, how do they defend the body? By engulfing and producing more antibodies. There is a point here you need to note. By engulfing and by producing more antibodies. These are shapes you can see. It is irregular shaped, even this one. And irregular shapes or shaped, they are irregular shaped to help them engulf germs. Then let's look at blood platelets or thrombocytes. Blood platelets are made in red bone marrows, like red blood cells. They help to reduce bleeding by clotting around the wound. So the role of blood platelets is that they aid in clotting of blood, hence reducing on bleeding. There are very many in the body with no nucleus and live shortly, meaning they are repaired all the time. We go to the diagrams, you can see this is the diagram of the platelet. These are other platelets. Then we got shortage. This is a note. Shortage of blood platelets result into uncontrolled bleeding in case of a wound. So shortly, that's what we can discuss on how the heart performs. We have seen how blood enters through vena cava. Then it goes through pulmonary artery. As it goes to the lungs, it gets oxygen, it comes back through pulmonary vein, then it goes out through aorta. Then for components, we have seen white blood cells, we have seen red blood cells, we have seen blood platelets, we have seen blood plasma. For now, that's what we can discuss.